We begin with the resurfacing of gridlock on Lagos roads. Even as we know it, fuel queues have resurfaced in several parts of Lagos as scarcity of petrol hits Nigeria's commercial center. In some areas of the state, motorists were spotted in the queues that snaked into the streets, causing gridlock around filling stations. A litre of the product now sells for between 800 and 1,000 naira in some filling stations, a move that has resulted in an increase in the pump price of fuel. Some filling stations are not selling the products, while black marketers have taken advantage of the situation to do brisk business. However, the federal government, through the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, threatened to withdraw licenses of filling stations hoarding fuel. The call for vehicle owners in Nigeria to transit from the use of petrol to compressed natural gas has become a national policy of the current government. While many believe this will relieve the high cost of transportation for Nigerians by over 60%, our correspondent Amadin Uyi reviews the policy and government's efforts to put in place. Let's look at the details.
For many Nigerians, the adoption of compressed natural gas for transportation has become a necessity due to rising cost of goods and services catalyzed by the removal of fuel subsidy. With the regular availability of petrol for motorists still a pipe dream, even Nigeria's government has accepted the fact that the adoption of CNG for transportation is the moral way to go.
Utilizing natural gas to power our transportation industry is the next way to go.
While government has promised to spearhead this initiative, it recently made its intent known by the launch of these transportation buses for commercial use to be powered by compressed natural gas.
Nigeria is going to move gradually away from very expensive PMS to the CNG that is really very cheap and very affordable to most Nigerians.
If we can enhance our energy competitiveness and bring about transformative changes like this, we would definitely be able to achieve the prosperity that we are working hard to.
The federal government has also set up the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, expected to drive the process. The initiative has been busy raising awareness among commercial transporters over the benefits and safety of CNG, and also giving grants to commercial operators that want to adopt the alternative.
Nigerians are going to be saving money. The environment is also going to be cleaner because fossil fuels are usually less environmentally friendly.
With available data indicating that about 80% of commercial vehicle owners gulp Nigeria's daily petrol demands and cost the nation trillions in naira, many believe that making transition to CNG use as a national policy is the way to go. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Now to the controversy surrounding a failed contract awarded by the Ogun State government to a Chinese firm, which has once again cast a rather negative spotlight on Nigeria. This time, Professor of Political Economy Pat Utomi has alleged that the former governor of Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosun, violated a contract he entered with his government. Utomi made the statement in response to Amosun's admission that he had cancelled an agreement with Zhongshan Fengshen International Industrial Investment Company Limited, a Chinese company. He said that the company had fake documents and called them imposters. A court in France later ruled in favor of the company and ordered the seizure of 3 Nigerian presidential jets. In a tweet on his X handle on Sunday, Utomi claimed that, like the Chinese company, he also faced a similar fate. According to Utomi, it was Governor Amosun's violation of contract terms signed by his predecessor that brought the shame of the seizure of jets from the presidential fleet. Professor Utomi alleged that the decision of Amosun to cancel contracts by his predecessor led to a prominent Ogun State citizen committing suicide. Meanwhile, former governor of Ogun State, Senator Ibikunle Amosun, has described the renowned professor of political economy, Pat Utomi, as an enemy of the state. Amosun stated this while responding to a post on X, where Utomi alleged that Amosun did not honor an agreement preceding his administration. The former governor of Ogun State also hinted that the State House of Assembly had already declared Utomi persona non grata. Earlier, we were joined by Nigerian economist Professor Pat Utomi to discuss more on this.
In terms of reputation, costing reputation goes into billions, the extent of the loss. I had to reverse the strategy. Instead of starting from upstream, and I went downstream, or the other way around, so to speak. And I began to try to develop the more expensive, the more problematic integrated produce city, where you're supposed to aggregate crops from farmers from, say, several states, and then create a commodities exchange. As a result of the commodities exchange, you will then supply these kinds of outlets. It would have been easier if we had taken off with this and begun to make income from this and then invested into the supply chain. But they prevented us from doing that, frustrated our foreign partners, and they left. So the cost to me, literally, billions of naira.
Away from that, we now have our correspondent, Bettina Nweli, who is standing by. She has actually been monitoring the fuel situation in some parts of Lagos State and the accruing queues that has spiraled into the major roads and streets. Bettina, good morning to you. And I'd like you to give us an update of what it is like looking at the fuel queues and the situation in around some parts of Lagos.
Very long queue. I can tell you that this queue extends all the way even up to the bridge. We're here on at the mobile filling station on Otedola Road, and it is chaotic. People have been here since 4 a.m. and they are allowing the cars go into the filling station batch by batch, but that doesn't stop the frustration of some Nigerians who have been here since 4 a.m. and still haven't gotten the ability or the allowance to get into the filling station. The filling station is currently selling fuel at 618 naira, which can also explain why there are so many cars waiting to buy here, since it seems to be, I would say, cheaper than other places. But I would like to speak to some people who are here to ask them what their experience of this scarcity has been and how this scarcity has affected their daily lives, basically. So if you please come with me, you'll see that there's a bit of squabble going on around here as well. Good morning, sir. Ekaro, sir. All right, please tell us. Okay, so the man is not answering because he is also trying to get access into the filling station. But you can see how the barricade is here because they try to allow the people inside of the filling station to buy the fuel first before they allow another set or another batch, if you may, to get into the filling station. But a lot of people are upset this morning about this fuel scarcity here, and I will try to talk to another person again just to find out how this fuel scarcity is affecting them here in Lagos, Nigeria. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, madam.
Tell us your names and what you do for a living.
Now, fuel, now no get now fuel. Now, wala every day.
How long have you been here, sir?
We have been here since 4:30. We have been here. Some slept here.
Since 4:30.
Some slept here.
I for 2 o'clock here.
I was here since 4:30.
Buying fuel, looking for fuel.
Looking for
so
fuel.
I don't even know what is going on in this country. And the country
Nowhere.
is going.
There's no fuel at Lagos. Nowhere.
All right, so you can hear it from angry Nigerians about the fuel situation. Some have been here since 4, some say they've been here since yesterday, and they had to come back this morning and still have not been able to get fuel into their cars or into their jerry cans for them to also fuel their generators in their homes. Nigerians are pretty upset this morning about the situation of the fuel scarcity, and I will continue to keep you up to date on the happenings on this particular filling station in Lagos, Nigeria.
No, no problem. We'll try as much as possible to keep tabs with you to get more details from you. But before you go, I'd just like to quickly confirm, is it that the filling station does not have fuel as of now, or they do have, and the filling station is actually hoarding the fuel? Just to get details.
They do have fuel, but in order to make sure that the situation here, I think you saw that. That is the craze that is happening here because of the fuel situation. Everybody trying to get into the filling station at all costs just so that they can get fuel. Both official and commercial drivers, you can see what just happened here. Now, the situation is not as if the filling station doesn't have fuel, but I think they're trying to contain the chaos that can come with people trying to rush for the fuel, and also to make sure that their facilities are not being vandalized. So what they are doing is to make sure that people get in, like I said earlier, batch by batch. This batch will go in first, then they will block the place with barricades until they finish buying and the inside is free. Then they allow the next batch to go in, and that is the process that they are currently using to sell the fuel here.
Much for the details. That's Betty Nangbeli there, somewhere around Lagos, right here in Nigeria, giving us updates as regards the fuel situation in that axis of the state. We will continue to bring you more as regards the fuel scarcity in Lagos State. You're watching News Central now, and we continue to tell you that Nigeria joins the rest of the world today to celebrate World Humanitarian Day, a global event commemorated annually to acknowledge the work and the risks faced by humanitarian workers worldwide. It is a day that is set aside to also honor those workers who were injured or killed in the course of discharging humanitarian duties. World Humanitarian Day was designated by the United Nations Assembly in 2008 to coincide with the anniversary of the 2003 bombing of the United Nations headquarters in Baghdad, Iraq. This year's theme is Acts for Humanity, with emphasis on the collective action needed to protect humanitarian workers that are attacked while providing critical assistance to vulnerable populations. And joining us to discuss this on the news is UNICEF Chief of Maiduguri Field Office, Dr. Tushar Rane. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Rane. It's nice to have you around.
Thank you.
So first, to start with, what is the significance of celebrating across the globe, looking at the hashtag?
Yeah, basically the World Humanitarian Day is commemorated every year to recognize humanitarians who do their utmost to support vulnerable populations across the globe. It is a day basically to recommit to humanitarian causes and advocate for a better operating environment, and for not only humanitarian workers but also the people they serve. From Gaza to Sudan to Democratic Republic of Congo, Myanmar, Ukraine, and Northeast Nigeria, the world is witnessing a widespread failure to protect humanitarian workers, providing aid and protection to these children. It is past time for world leaders to recommit to the protection of the humanitarian worker, risking their lives to save and protect the civilians in war, including the children. The world is failing humanitarian workers and the children who rely on them heavily for survival and protection.
Okay, so
humanitarian aid.
Yeah, I understand. So then, given the increasing risks faced by humanitarian workers, as I've just highlighted, when it comes to conflict zones and management, like Maiduguri, for instance, what are the specific measures that you believe can be implemented to ensure the safety and protection of the staff and, of course, partners on ground?
So all the humanitarian workers in the Northeast region have been targeted for abduction. Many of the humanitarian workers in the Northeast region are targeted for abduction and even threat for life. As recently as 2 weeks back, humanitarian workers were abused and were attacked during the nationwide protest, and structures were attacked and razed in the past. It is past time for the world leaders to recommit to commit for the protection of the humanitarian workers, risking their lives to save and protect civilians in war and also children. We are focused on partnerships that bring solution and not blames. There is always a room to do better, to save the to basically protect the humanitarian workers who risk their lives to save and protect children, yet face increasing attacks by varying parties. On this occasion of this World Humanitarian Day, UNICEF demands action to protect humanitarian workers and their vital work for children. We must focus on solutions and act for humanity.
Talking about solutions and the need to have aid being delivered to people who are in need in those conflict zones. Now, what do you think would be necessary that can be done? Probably some sort of contribution or collaboration that could actually aid in ensuring that these aids get to the intended recipients.
Yeah, indeed, it's a collaborative effort. It's not a standalone, isolated effort by any organization, but that is a collective that could contribute to it. And UNICEF is calling on the authorities to ensure this protection for humanitarian workers, medical professionals, and the hospitals, transport, supply that would need to fulfill their mission and to end the impunity for this attack once and for all. Not only hospitals, applies for schools as well.
And finally, even as we actually commemorate World Humanitarian Day, what message would you like to convey to both the perpetrators of violence against humanitarian workers and even the global community regarding the importance of protecting those who dedicate their lives to saving others?
So it has to be a concerted effort. We demand an end to the attack on these violations and call on world leaders to act to end the impunity and protect humanitarian workers and the vital services they provide for children and humanity. Let's work together and act for humanity.
Dr. Tushar Arane, you're doing a good job. We say thank you very much and we wish you all the best. Thank you for talking to us too.
Thank you.
Many thanks for staying with us. We'll now tell you that the streets of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, are home to many children who have fled due to the insurgency or brought in from other parts of Nigeria. Now, these children face an uncertain future as they struggle to survive and navigate life outside the safety of their homes. News Central's Omar Karawa, who interacted with the street children, reports on their lifestyle and some of the untold stories of the future generation.
A normal peaceful day for everyone struggling to survive in Nigeria's northeast state of Borno. The echoes of the years of conflict is gradually fading away in towns and villages. According to the state government, from 2 million, Borno state now battles with about 800,000 out-of-school children who roam the streets for survival.
The
story of Ba Usman is different as he is pursuing Islamic studies at a Sangaya with keen interest and an ambition to become a pilot. For many, there is no difference between out-of-school, abandoned or street children and the Almajiri who strive to gain Islamic knowledge.
Street children are those that were abandoned by their parents, but Almajiris are those that are already registered to various schools and institutions. Those children that he interacted with, amongst them are up to 87,000 that were registered by the state government. But these 87,000 that were registered by government under the custody of government is not even up to 5% of these children.
However, the narrative is that both the abandoned, out of school, and Almajiri all beg for food on the streets to survive.
First, if the government is serious, they could have restored constitutional mandate for the traditional institutions. The traditional institution is very much connected with the community, with the society. The Nigerian state is completely disconnected from the community. The Nigerian government is not sensitive to the sensibilities of the community. They are absent. The government may have attempted to restore some sorts of financial autonomy to the local government, but this stopped at the political level. the councillor and their chairman, which were not even known to the people of the community.
The situation is dire for these street children who often lack access to basic necessities and are vulnerable to exploitation like rape and harvest of organs, among others.
Especially irin su ne to mun sha koran su ba su da gurin kwanciya ba su da gurin da zo na wani sa ma mun gana ruwa kama da muna rumfan shagunan mutanen suke samu suke makalewa in ka zo gani ma to sai ne ma kamar yanzu ma ko wanda ya fadi a gaban mu ma ashe yunwa ne
nan da muna ya ande kotu ya kamata ta gwamnati ande talabijin ande wana la kaza ande akira la yaro suka ande kumunde intaction mallam bonde welu ya dialam bone so duk lamone ba.
In the case of the Almajiris, while some are out on the street in the daytime and return to their parents' home later in the day, others are accommodated in boarding facilities where they sleep in their schools. However, feeding these Almajiris remains one of the major challenges of the system, forcing the children to roam the streets begging.
Let's now start forming groups within communities that will be addressing maybe the educational needs of these children. Some will focus on maybe entrepreneurship.
It is not mandatory for everybody to marry. There are criteria. Apart from maturity, are you fit mentally, physically, and morally, in addition to financial capacity to take care of the needs of the one that you will bring under your care?
As part of the measures to address this menace, the Borno State has built mega schools such as this to meet to the growing number of out-of-school children, but it seems to be inadequate.
What matters is our population, and then what matters is we don't know who is working in the state, and unless something is being done, we shall not get rid of this problem.
The government says it is taking steps to monitor and control the influx of unaccompanied children to the state. However, the challenge remains.
In this late night hours, I met one of my friends, Abubakar Adam, who usually sleeps here, and he will tell us more about the experience here. As you can see, mosquitoes are everywhere, and this is where these children are sleeping. The point here is, it is not about complaining or pointing accusing fingers, but most importantly, an action is needed to address the issue of street children. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Kirawa, thank you so much for that touching story. Moving on now. The Northeast Development Commission has pledged to reconstruct the collapsed Waga-Madagali Bridge in Adamawa State, which links Adamawa with Borno State. News Central's Marakarawa reports that the bridge was recently destroyed by flood in the area, which cut off any form of socio-economic activities between the two states through the route. Managing Director of NEDC, Mohammed Goni Alkali, who visited the area on assessment tour, expressed concern about the collapsed bridge and said everything possible will be done to reconstruct the bridge and restore means of livelihood of the people. The visit follows a presidential directive to the Commission to undertake immediate assessment and profile solutions to easing the difficulties of the commuters. Similarly, residents of Nasarawa State and other travelers from the north central and northeastern part of Nigeria have been denied access to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, by floods caused by an early morning downpour. News Central correspondent reports that the flood covered the Abuja-Kefi Expressway around the popular Nyanya Bridge. Commuters were forced to park their cars and wait for the water current to reduce. Now, residents of Ubududu in Umana Ndume, Umahia North local government area of Abia State say they are now insecure following the demolition of their fences by government authorities on Saturday. They say they were yet to understand why the Umahia Capital Development Authority carried out the assignment that has caused devastation in the various buildings in the area. According to those who spoke to News Central, some of them have already fled their homes for fear of possible attacks from the locals and also removed some vital things as well. The community is said to have recently won its case with the Old Boys Association of Government College, Umuahia, over ownership of the area. The general manager of Umuahia Capital Development Authority, Kingsley Agomo, was not available to offer explanations for the development as of the time of filing in this report.
We started living here. We just we spent almost 1.5 million naira. When they came yesterday, they were saying that they had the authority from the governor of Abia State, Dr. LSOT. And he has asked them to demolish everything that people occupying here are staying in government property.
All this morning, I'm large. I am a bag of Baragana. And we give me a boss on Manga. Like yesterday night, I hotel come on me here. A lot ramo. Was it yesterday? Man who vacate. So keep one day vacate without giving us notice. In our hotel because all night already have.
Let's now tell you that stakeholders in Nigeria's federal capital have expressed diverse views on the recent approval of a 300% pay rise for judicial workers and officers in the country. While some view the move as an effort to reduce corruption and combat inducements of judges, others believe more alternate measures like employment of more judges should be utilized to improve the nation's justice sector. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu tells us more.
Thousands of high-profile cases in Nigerian courts, the need for judicial officers to display and maintain a high level of integrity has never been more apt. While unproven rumors abound of many judges being compromised by Nigeria's political elite, there has been a nationwide call for judges to maintain a high standard of integrity and shun corruption. The move by Nigeria's Senate to increase the salaries of judicial officers by 300% is seen as a move to make judges foolproof against graft in the light of recent allegations against judges by the National Judicial Council.
Having a 300% increase in salaries and emolument is a welcome development. It could help those who want to be upright amongst them to live upright because they now have more resources to live a decent life.
It's a very huge hurdle to cross when you have a legal case in Nigeria. We know that we don't have enough judges. The court systems are inundated with the sheer volume of petitions and cases. So will these increases translate into a smoother operations for the judiciary?
Go a long way in strengthening the judiciary to be able to perform adequately. So I think it is a commendable legislation.
Citizens are supposed to be happy that the judiciary, the protector of the common man, their welfare package has been improved. It is supposed to be something that was supposed to be joyous to all of the populace. But it is accepted now with mixed feelings.
Some citizens believe that the 300% pay rise will contribute to bringing sanity to the nation's justice sector.
The tendency or the temptation to be induced is directly linked to poor remuneration. So when you have them being adequately remunerated now, it's a kind of a brick wall against such temptations.
The judiciary, let's not forget, is an important component of democracy. And no matter how we look at it, it's an important component of democracy. But this is the time for the judiciary to fight for its own relevance.
With citizens divided on the need to increase salaries of judicial workers, the conduct of judicial officers will now be judged more thoroughly. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
The Asaba in Council has announced Professor of Law Epiphany Azinge SAN as the 14th Asaba of Asaba designate. The Ochendo Ahaba, Anthony Edozian, who announced this after a solemn democratic selection process, said it was in line with the traditional rulers and chiefs edict of 1979 applicable to Delta State. News Central's correspondent Austin tells us more.
In line with the traditions of the people of Asaba,
the palace of the Asagba of Asaba was filled with the Obis and other chiefs to select and announce the new Asagba. This gathering is coming months after the final rites of the late Asagba, Professor Chike Edozie. Meanwhile, 10 candidates are vying for the position of the Asagba, all from the Bomata quarters, whose turn is to produce the next Asagba.
The Asagba Council has mandated the various quarters to go into a closed-door session to decide the next Asagba that will be officially be announced by the Asagba Council.
At the return of the 5 villages that made up Bomata quarters, the Uchendo Ahaba Anthony Edozie, however, announced Professor Epiphany Azingi as the 14th Asagba designate.
By the authority vested in me as the Uchendo Asagba, and the authority vested in me under the traditional rulers and chiefs edict of 1979, I pronounce Professor Epiphany Azinge as the 14th Asagba of Asaba designate.
Some described the process as peaceful and transparent, just as others described the Asaba designate as a national asset to the people of Asaba and beyond.
Everybody knows that he's actually the best of all. So it's just, it's good for the competition because when there's no contest, I don't think there will be respect for the office.
Well, let me state something. I am the 14th Omu of Asaba, and today the designate is the 14th Asaba of Asaba. It is highly spiritual for me. I'm taking it very personal because I'm experiencing this for the first time. And in the Bible, 14 has 2 digits. What does it mean? Forget the old and move to the new.
But I have every confidence that we have made the right choice and that Professor Obi Epiphany Azinge will give Asaba as good and even a better service because he's a younger man than our late revered Asagba. He will give Asaba a very, very good service. And we look forward to his tenure with much enthusiasm.
The Asagba designate will now proceed on rites that will accumulate into his coronation as the 14th Asagba of Asaba. In Asaba, for News Central, Austin Azul.
Now, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency says its operatives have arrested a Vietnam-bound businessman, Paul Okwe Mbaduga, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja after he tested positive for ingesting cocaine. This was contained in a statement signed by the agency spokesperson Femi Babafemi on Sunday. He said that the 54-year-old suspect was intercepted at the boarding gate of the Abuja airport on Monday, August 12, 2024, during the outward clearance of a Qatar Airways flight to Hanoi, Vietnam, via Doha. According to Babafemi, Mbaduga excreted a total of 88 wraps of the illicit drug with a gross weight of 1.710 kilograms after 4 days under excretion observation. In a statement, the suspect was said to have claimed that he is a Lagos-based businessman and was given the cocaine pellets to swallow by a friend in a solo area of the state for onward delivery in Vietnam for a fee of $2,000. Moving on now, the Parliament of the Economic Community of West African States is making more diplomatic efforts to keep Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger inside the regional alliance. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, confirmed that parliamentary diplomacy mechanisms are being deployed to engage the 3 nations, emphasizing the importance of unity within ECOWAS. He said this in an interview with newsmen in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, on the sidelines of a meeting of the Parliament's Joint Committee on Administration, Finance, Budget, Public Accounts, Macroeconomic Policy and Economic Research, of which he is the chairman. Kalu assured that letters had been sent to the governments of the concerned nations and visits by parliamentary representatives would soon follow. But I'll tell you that Sudan's army-aligned government says it would send a delegation to Cairo to discuss implementing a previous humanitarian deal despite boycotting ongoing talks in Switzerland seeking to end the army's 16-month war with paramilitaries. The army's opponents, the Rapid Support Forces, are present in the ceasefire negotiations that the U.S. is currently mediating in an undisclosed location in Switzerland, but the army has declined to attend. The statement also adds that the decision was made based on communication with the Egyptian government requesting a meeting with a government delegation in Cairo and communication with the U.S. government represented by U.S. envoy to Sudan, Tom Perriello. In East Africa, Sudan's health minister has declared a cholera epidemic in the war-torn country due to contaminated drinking water and heavy rainfall. The decision was made in conjunction with UN agencies and experts over the discovery of the cholera virus. The country has been embroiled in a war since April 2023, leading to a humanitarian crisis with over 25 million people facing acute hunger. Flooding has displaced thousands, causing an increase in sickness, including diarrhea. Cholera can cause severe dehydration and death within hours, and the WHO has reported over 300,000 cases and 2,300 deaths in 26 countries. Sudan's war has hindered humanitarian efforts, with both sides accused of war crimes. Ceasefire talks began in Switzerland, but the Sudanese army refused to participate.
يعني فيها إشكالية بتاع إنه 69% من المواطنين بيعتمدوا في مصدر الشرب على موية النهر، بالتالي هي موية ملوثة ومحتاجة لمعالجة، ودي يمكن داير لها متطوعين أو معززين لتعقيم المياه من النهر. والله الوفيات يمكن عدد الحالات يمكن 7 وفيات، وعدد الحالات يمكن تقريبا 150 حالة. أول
كان عندنا موت البحر وبعدين قطعوها ويكون يشرب موت الدون كده.
In North Africa, the Central Bank of Libya said on Sunday it was suspending all operations after a bank official was abducted in the capital, Tripoli. In a statement posted on social media, Busab Salem, head of information technology at the Central Bank, was kidnapped by an unidentified group from his house on Sunday morning. The bank said it would not resume operations until Salem is released, adding that other executives were also threatened with abduction. Sunday's abduction came a week after the central bank's headquarters in Tripoli was laid siege to by armed men. Reports say they did so in an attempt to force the resignation of the bank's governor, Sadiq Al-Kabir. From other continents, we tell you that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has on Monday called the latest diplomatic push by Washington to achieve a ceasefire deal in Gaza probably the best, maybe the last opportunity, and has urged all parties to get the agreement over the finish line. The two-day conference last week in Doha set the stage for this week's marathon talks for a truce that have been ongoing for months in Cairo. Blinken will step up diplomatic pressure from the United States to guarantee the negotiators achieve a compromise later this week. Last week, the United States presented bridge suggestions that the mediation nations believe will narrow the differences between the warring sides.
Decisive moment. Probably the best, maybe the last opportunity to get the hostages home, to get a ceasefire, and to put everyone on a better path to enduring peace and security. I'm here. It is time for it to get done. It's also time to make sure that no one takes any steps that could derail this process. And so we're working to make sure that there is no escalation, that there are no provocations, that there are no actions that in any way could move us away from getting this deal over the line.
We still have more stories for you on News Central now. We're going to break. We'll be back.